A very good evening to everyone. As we all know, the COVID-19 virus has its impact on almost all body organs, be it eyes, lungs, head, and whatnot. But with its growing cases, the growth of myths related to it is also profound. Women are fearing of their menstrual health being affected by vaccines, whereas pregnant women are constantly stressed about the virus. But overthinking doesn't lead to anywhere. To make you all aware of the facts and myths related to this deadly virus, we at Shivaji College have organized a question answer session with Dr. Nidhi Jain. Dr. Nidhi Jain is an obstetrician and gynecologist with a 10 plus year of experience. She is a member of the Federation of Obstetric and Gynecological Societies of India and Haryana Medical Council. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us in this session.
Thank you.
A week ago, we floated a Google form in order to collect the questions from our audiences that they would like to ask you. After filtering them, we have come across some questions which will cover all the aspects. So I would like to begin with the first question. Ma'am, there are myths about vaccination during periods. Is it safe to get vaccinated during the menstrual cycle, and does it affect it?
Yeah, so it is safe to take the vaccination during the menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle is commonly, as thought, may decrease the immunity, but frankly, there is nothing like that, because during menstruation, we don't stop working, we don't stop going out, we continue with our daily activities. So as far as the immunity aspect is concerned, that's not true. But yes, definitely, like it has an impact on the lady's body because she's losing blood and then she can feel weak. So that is different. For that, I mean, if there is excessive bleeding, she needs to consult the doctor, but there is no contraindication for taking vaccination as such. You can take vaccination during your periods, and periods will not alter after taking vaccination, or the efficacy of the vaccine will not be changed with respect to the periods.
Okay, another question is that if a pregnant woman has low oxygen level or has any other symptoms of COVID, what precautions one can take till she reaches the hospital?
Yeah, so if a pregnant woman has fever, or if she has a history of contact with a person who is COVID positive, then she should definitely seek medical advice, and she should not wait for her parameters to become bad in the house. Okay. Of course, it is not necessary for every pregnant patient to physically visit the doctor. They can take a teleconsultation also. Then the doctor has to decide about the condition of the patient based on various things. So I ask all my patients who are pregnant and who unfortunately get this COVID infection to buy a pulse oximeter at home. Pulse oximeter basically is a device which will tell us the oxygen saturation and the pulse, as well as then the patient needs to check her temperature and her blood pressure if possible at home. So we have an automatic blood pressure recorder, which she can buy and she can record. If the saturation has to be maintained more than 94%, so if the oxygen saturation is more than 94%, the pulse rate is less than 90 per minute, and blood pressure is normal, her temperature is not very high, like more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and she does not have any breathlessness and no other pain abdomen or any other problems with respect to pregnancy, then she can continue with the home isolation. And she has to keep checking these records every day and speak to the doctor or send her the records. So if at any moment, if she feels that her oxygen saturation is falling below 94%, she has difficulty in breathing, or she has like heavy breathing, she has fast breathing, she is not able to even move from the bed to the toilet, even that much is causing a lot of strain. Or if the patient is more than 20 weeks, she can feel the baby movements. So if the baby movements are less, or if she has any bleeding, or if she has any water discharge, then in all these cases, she must go to the hospital. So what to do till you reach the hospital or till you get a bed? Because today, in these days, getting a bed in the hospital also is very difficult. So always call an ambulance as far as possible, which contains an oxygen cylinder. So on the way till you get a bed, you can at least be on oxygen till that time. And additionally, you can buy an oxygen concentrator at home, which can help you to at least breathe a little better oxygen, okay, till the time you get a proper admission in the hospital. But no patient who is pregnant, I mean, most of the patients who are pregnant, they are not denied a bed because it is the also, I mean, since we as obstetricians have been seeing the patient since 9 months, so we try our best that the patient gets a bed in the hospital. But then the conditions today are such that we cannot promise. So till then, the patient has to take some precautions. Yeah.
And this was the most asked question, so I had to bring this up. If due to any emergency, a person is not able to get the second dose on time, if he has taken the first dose but not able to get the second dose on time, then what is the period that he should wait to get the next dose, or if or she should get the first dose again or not?
See, now till now, in the beginning, the recommendation was to take the second dose in 4 weeks. Then after that, it became 6 weeks. Then it became 8 weeks, then 12 weeks. And now they're saying sometimes even 16 weeks. Okay. So if beyond 12 weeks, you are not able to take, then you have to repeat the first dose, because till now the recommendation is that you need to take 2 doses, which are at least 8 to 12 weeks apart. So if you are not able to take the second dose, at least in a span of 4 months also from the first dose, then you should repeat the first. That also you need to, I mean, see, the guidelines in COVID keep changing, because what is valid today may not be valid every day. And every day we have new guidelines coming from the government and from FOXI. So as of now, the maximum limit is 12 weeks. And beyond that, if you are not able to take, you should repeat the first dose.
Is it true that after the first dose of any vaccine, our body immunity gets reduced, and if we get COVID during that phase, it can seriously affect our body?
See, any vaccine will take minimum of 2 to 3 weeks to act. So vaccine basically produces antibodies in the body, which help us to fight infection. Okay. So in those 2 weeks, it's not that I take the vaccine jab today and from tomorrow my antibodies will be good. It does not happen like that. It takes a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks. Now, that does not mean that the vaccine has decreased your immunity. No, it is just that you are still not protected against the infection for the first 2 weeks after the first dose. So in that time, you have to take precaution. Even after the second dose of vaccination with a good antibody titer, it does not mean that you remove your mask and you go out everywhere in crowded places. Okay. Vaccination can decrease the severity of infection. It can decrease your chances of getting infection by some percentage, but it cannot completely protect you. It is not that you are foolproof. I mean, you are virus proof after taking the vaccination. It is not like that. So your immunity does not decrease after taking the dose, but it takes some time for the antibodies to form. That is why immediately after the vaccination, if you get an infection, it is not because of vaccination. It is because your body still not produced that much of antibodies to protect you. And we, of course, have to continue with the general basic precautions. That is social distancing and mask. Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, doctors have been suggesting us to take vitamin C tablets for our immunity, to boost our immunity. Does it have any effect on the menstrual health of a woman or a girl?
No, not at all. In fact, vitamin C tablets help us in the absorption of iron also. And we have seen the ladies who bleed more, who have heavy bleeding during period, they develop anemia. That is because of the blood loss. So we give them iron medicine along with vitamin C. Most of the times we give iron medication along with vitamin C that helps in the absorption of that helps in the absorption of iron. So vitamin C is a very good vitamin which will help you to fight the infection. It improves your immunity. It also improves your hemoglobin. It will not have any effect on the periods, and it is good for the general health of the body.
Okay. And another question is, if a woman is COVID positive during childbirth, what are the possibilities that the child born will be COVID positive or not?
Okay. Now, see, till now, as I said, recommendations and guidelines keep changing in COVID every day. Okay. So till now, whatever studies we have, they have said that the transplacental transfer means from mother to child during pregnancy, COVID is not transferred. Okay. Then when the baby is born, in the vaginal secretions or in the blood also, the COVID infection is not transferred from that place to the baby, even during cesarean section. Now, how does the baby get infection is after delivery, when the baby comes in the hospital, then maybe from the hospital staff or from some, bed sheets or something, from the surroundings, the child tends to get infection. Because in 90% of the cases, the mothers who are positive with COVID infection, their babies are negative for COVID. That means through the placenta, the infection is not transmitted. Through the vaginal secretions, the infection is not transmitted. Okay, so transmission from mother to child is extremely low, very minimal. So if the mother is able to face the COVID infection healthily, if she is able to pass those 14 to 15 days without any serious complication, then she can be assured most of the times her baby will be fine.
Okay. So, ma'am, during COVID pandemic, many people have inculcated the Ayurvedic habits, like using kadhas or different tonics. So, do you think these are beneficial towards preventing COVID or recovering from it?
See, I will not say anything against it, and I will maybe not support it so much also that you take kadha 3 or 4 times a day. But yes, people have been taking, and it is soothing also in the throat. It tends to cleanse the throat. So once in a day, kadha is okay. I mean, you can take it. But mind you, it will not protect you completely from the infection. It is not going to clear the infection from the body. It does have a lot of things like, you add some tulsi or some stuff like that, which can improve your immunity. Yes, definitely. But then it is same. I mean, it is not going to protect you from the infection as such. It is only going to improve your immunity. So along with kadha, most important is mask and social distancing. These two are extremely, extremely important. Avoid going to crowded places. Mask should be till here, not till here. It's important to keep the mask above the nose. Your nose and mouth should be completely covered. Okay. If the mask is here, then it is of no use. You are inhaling all the virus from the nose, and then it is really of no use. So kadha will only protect you. It will only help you when you follow these social distancing norms. Okay. And you should all know that excess of everything is bad. So taking it in limit is also important.
Okay, ma'am. So these were the questions which we got. I would like to ask you to please give us some tips or some, things which you would like to share with us so that we as students or as a whole community can help to aware other peoples too, to, fight COVID or fight this pandemic so that it just ends as soon as possible.
See, the pandemic is a problem for all of us, and when will it end? Only God knows. But how we can help the society is, first of all, by protecting ourselves. So it is important for us, again, I will repeat maybe the 10th time in this webinar, to wear a mask properly and do social distancing. And mask also should be N95, it should not be a cloth mask. Cloth masks alone are not useful. So double mask means a cloth mask along with N95 is very helpful. Okay, first of all. Secondly, stay indoors and go out only when it is extremely necessary. I know, I mean, my children are at home. I have 2 children and both are like, one is 6 years, one is 11 years. Both are at home since 1 year. And if such small children can be kept at home, we as adults also can stay at home when it is not needed to go out. Because how much can the government help us? The government can help us only when we will help ourselves. If all of us, see, no society is prepared for admitting all of the population at once. Okay, if everybody gets sick, of course there can be no bed available for anybody. So it is very important for the people who are healthy not to spread infection and not to unnecessarily go out. Then we should understand that before we develop fever, if we have infection, we start spreading the infection. So if we are like having the infection in our nasal passage without any symptoms, we can still transmit that virus to the other person. So as soon as we come back from outside, is the meeting still on? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So as soon as we come out from outside, it is important for us to wash our hands, wash our face, change our clothes, not to sit on the like common places which are used by the other people of the family as well. Okay. Then when we are in the office or when we are in the college, like not to preferably sit together in a group and take our lunch. It is important to keep ourselves, because we don't know which person is harboring the infection. We don't know who is going to transmit the infection to us. Okay. Other thing is that it is very saddening to see that so many people are keeping oxygen cylinders and medicines and then selling them in black. So we can, I mean, you as students can spread awareness about that, do some, online campaign, or just explain people about the actual price and from where they can procure these important things in the time of need. Because at the time when it is needed, then people tend to believe anybody. So like people like mads, they are selling oxygen cylinders for 40,000 rupees, which is hardly for 5,000 rupees. Remdesivir injection, which has been made by the government of less than 1,000 rupees per vial, is being sold for 30,000, 50,000 rupees for one injection. This is so wrong and this is so bad. So, I mean, in our society also, I have seen many young people, they have formed some groups in which they have made a helpline kind of a thing, which anyone can use during the time of need. How to get an oxygen concentrator, how to get an oxygen cylinder, how to get the injections when needed. And of course, the government has made a lot of apps which tells you about the beds, like in which hospital beds are vacant, beds are not vacant. So that way, the government is trying to do a lot of efforts. It is really, really trying to help us a lot. But we as the people of India, we have to help each other. So we should not think of our profit at this time. We should basically try to, be as helpful as possible. Yeah.
I would like to tell you that the students of Shivaji College recently, from 20th April, we started a campaign, Asha, under which we formed a COVID task force with 150 plus volunteers, and we are verifying leads for the people, and they are calling us for the plasma oxygen. So we provide them with the leads, and then they contact. And during that period, we have almost helped 40 plus people with all these things.
That is very good. Very nice. Yeah.
Okay, and I would like to thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us in this session. And I would like to now call Nisha Gudara, the president of NSS Shivaji College, to give the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Muskan. I regard this as an honor and privilege to extend the vote of thanks. Today, I take this opportunity to put all my gratitude in the form of words. On behalf of the entire NSS team, I would like to thank Dr. Nidhi Chan for making us all aware of the facts and myths related to the coronavirus and its vaccination. The session was really thoughtful and enriching, ma'am. I would also like to thank our respected principal, sir, Dr. Shiv Kumar Sehdev, who has been a constant support and gave us a lot of encouragement. Thank you, sir. I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the NSS convener, Dr. Ruja Dhinkra, for her abounding motivation, guidance, and support. Thank you, ma'am. Last but not the least, I thank all the NSS volunteers who have worked hard for making this program successful. Thank you.